This is the same way that I would translate a legal document. You have to write absolutely everything that it is in there. You have to describe whether there is a rubric or not. You have to describe whether they have notes on the margin or not. And you have to specify where the note is in the book. And that's what you see in the transcription. The comfort of reading something that is actually more readable than the original, as you can see. So that's why we went for the paleographic transcription. Well, Jorge took all the work to do that. I was just, at that point, I was just consulting. But he took an incredible task.
In this case, for example, there are a lot of mistakes in our actual language, which is, for example, 700. The correct way to write it in Spanish, actual Spanish is with a C, but the friar write with a zeta. And this is, we found this millions of times in the book. I tried to do a perfect job like Antonio is requiring me. Okay, in this case, for example, 18, and we got here, we have to put here at the end of the line, we have to put a slash, right? This one, because we have to say the readers that how the structure of the document is, and how many lines in the record, and all of that must be recorded. Many people are saying, no, that this is only a record books and it's only interesting for genealogies and the names and dates. But in all of these records, we have a lot of information like this. You can extract, for example, I have only in this book, only in the baptismal book, I have like 50 pages of notes. At the end of these 3 books, I plan to write an analytical book explaining you everything on the books. I don't know if it's going to take just 1 volume or maybe 10 volumes to explain what happened in San Antonio de Valero in those years, only with the small information that we find in each record.
Why do you say that it is a mistake when he wrote esta misión de San Francisco Solano? Why do you say that was a mistake?
I think that was a mistake because they were already in San Antonio de Valero. We are not anymore in San Francisco Solano. I have to say San Antonio de Valero.
And maybe you have it somewhere further down in your presentation in the inside cover of this baptismal book, this first one, where it was written that this mission of Valero came from San Jose, and that San Jose closed because of lack of water. But too many people have confused it and keep believing that Solano became Valero, but Solano became San Ildefonso. San Ildefonso became San Jose. San Jose became Valero.
Let's finish with the presentation of the records, because it's important to you to understand how it is done in order to read the book correctly. Well, we have, for example, here, Antonio de Olivares, ministro de esta misión. Okay, exorcicé, puse óleo, another slash, we have to write here, y crisma, Antonio, we have to develop this abbreviation, Barreiro. And Barreiro, in our days, is write with B, and this one is writing with V. And you can see in the margin, I think is maybe the same friar, but I'm not really sure about this. Okay, the calligraphy is very similar, but it's difficult to say that, not being a specialist on this. Hijo de Nicolás el fiscal y de Francisca su mujer. Fue su padrino. If you are reading the book in the page 99 is what it's saying, right? su padrino, and another parenthesis open for the development of the abbreviation, el ingeniero / here, Don Francisco Barreiro. In this case, you know, there is a mistake here made by the friar. He put the E before the I before the E, and it should be upside down, right? Y porque conste, lo firmé con su padre, I think, I don't remember what this one. Con su paternidad, yeah. I found this abbreviation in some resources and changed a little bit what I writing in this. En dicho día, mes y año Utsuka. And this is a very important thing because, for example, we have here the rubric of the friar, all right, Miguel Núñez. And if you see in your records and in the book, there is a line between crotchets that say rubricado. Well, that means that there is a rubric. There is a real sign. The book was really signed by the friar. And the last
His
line,
signature. That means it's his signature, right?
yeah.
Okay.
The last line is what is in the margin, and all of this is in the margin. Okay, and many previous researchers on this book forgot to record what is in the margin, and it's, well, almost the most important thing are in the margins. In this case, Jarame, which is a very important, I think is the most important nation in the history of San Antonio. I will explain later. We have to put a dot and another word which means párvulo, which means a baby.
You have to keep in mind the word fiscal didn't mean the same.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I want to speak about that. Only one word, which is fiscal, means a lot of things in this book, a lot of things for history, and a lot of things. You know, it's impressive because we are talking about a Jarame Indian,
Yeah,
which is a native, which is a person living in the mission. In each mission, we have two persons, which is the governor, or in sometimes alcalde, is the title they use, alcalde.
yeah,
And the other is the fiscal.
yeah.
So if they were, and I'm saying this because we had some kind of controversy with last post in Facebook with some scholars, scholars that saying something about the enslavement of the natives in the missions. Well, if you are enslaving people in the missions, why you need to give them such a roles like alcalde or like a fiscal? So this doesn't make any sense. All right. The missions were working as a pueblo and had the same organization. And the friars were just teachers teaching the natives how to live in a Spanish way. This all corrupted, obsolete narrative that we use since 150 years must be changed because it's so wrong you cannot imagine. So this book will change the history only if you want. If you have an open mind, if you try to say, okay, we have a bunch of documents because we have 3 books for each mission. We were claiming about a whitewash narrative until now, okay? And now we are going to the opposite end with a native wash narrative. And the truth is lost in the middle. The truth is in the middle. It's not in one side and in the other side. Now people are thinking that the native thing is cool. We have to, of course, the natives. Well, 200 years ago, people annihilated the natives. So it's a big change. It's a big change. So we have to change that narrative because the truth is in the middle. And I don't know if this new wave of talk about the natives, about the Pachamama, and about all of this, they can manage to accept, they are willing to accept that the second cause of death in those times in the missions was to be killed by another native. So we have to open our minds, take a white sheet of paper and start an investigation from scratch, because all those historians, 100 years in the early years of the 20th century, writing about the history of San Antonio, we have to review all of that. You have to understand what a mission means, because people don't know what is a mission. This, for example, this picture of the Alamo, this is not a mission. What is this? This is a result of a mission. A mission is when the prior, the boss of Antonio de San Buenaventura y Olivares, said to him, you go there and you teach the natives the Spanish religion, the Spanish language. The natives, they were living in the wild as a hunter gatherers, but sometimes because the climate was dry or whatever happened, they were short of food. The way is to organize a system, a modern system that the friars came with it, to grow crops, to have livestock, to have a regular and continuous supply of food. The fields around the mission are not the mission, are the result of the mission. The first thing you have to do in a mission is to provide water. We provide water with the acequias. Then you have to prepare the fields to grow crops and to feed the animals. And this is not a mission. The friars didn't have the thing to enslave the natives to build a mission. No. The second step on the pyramid is the security. Why you need security? Because there were a lot of people, the Apaches, the Cocos, attacking the missions, killing the natives. They built a fence around the mission. This is not the mission. This is the result of a mission, of what they need. You really can't believe that 2 friars and a soldier can keep 300 natives in a mission as slaves for 80 years? Well, I'm not. I'm sorry. The mission was moved with all the natives with them. We have a third migration, and I think this is the most important migration. We have the migration of the Canarios, of course. We have the migration of the soldiers, of the Presidio, and we have the migration of the Jarames. Antonio de San Buenaventura y Olivares received the green light to go to San Antonio. And what the history is saying us is that he came with 4 Jarame Indians from the Presidio, and they are not saying anything else. The natives in San Francisco Solano were a very strong group of several families with many kids, with many descendants, who moved to San Antonio. 1,665 baptized in San Antonio and San Francisco Solano. All of these are the records related to the same family. So we have a family with all of these baptismal after the part. In San Antonio de Valero, after 1718, we have some payayas coming to the mission, and looking at the Jarames, how they live. The payayas were looking at the Jarames as a model, how they can achieve a way of life like Spaniards, like people living in the mission. I'm thinking that around 200 people between 200 people and 300 people came from the Rio Grande Valley to San Antonio. If we take in count that the Presidio Soldiers and all around them was like 100, 120 people, and the Canarios later was 56. So we got the third migration and the most important migration to San Antonio, which were the Jarames. Then Payayas who were living in the mission but were not baptized. Okay, we have a lot of records that show that Payayas were living in the mission along the Jarames, learning because the mission was working as a pueblo, as a town. Then the Payayas came, some of the Payayas came to the mission, look at the Jarames, where they're living, and started to intermix with them, with marriage and kids born. So this is gonna change the history, the narrative until now. Only if you want to accept it. Only if you want to accept what the documents are saying. But as you know, I have the experience with other research, and it's very difficult to change the beliefs and I'm saying beliefs because all the history must be based on facts. I don't know why so many people are writing books based in copy paste what other old historians did. This is not the way. The way is to look at the documents and start from scratch an investigation and reach the conclusions. And at the end, someone will say, you know, you are wrong or you are right or whatever, but your conclusions are based on documents, not just a copy paste from other authors. You know what is this? This is the first page of the second page. And we have, this is an edition made in 1744. You know, you see the year, right? And it's saying, Libro Primero de 1703 a 1783, and we can see here Francisco Solano Río Grande, 1703, San Ildefonso, 1712, San José Río Grande, 1713, and San Antonio de Valero, 1718. This is what we know, right? Because someone recorded a long time ago. Well, can you believe that in the whole book, I didn't find any line about San Ildefonso? No one line about San Ildefonso. In the 17th, we start with something interesting, because they are saying, en el año del Señor de 1713, día 4 de junio, yo, Fray Juan Josep de Soto, ministro actual de esta misión de la advocación de San José y Iglesia de San Francisco Solano. So, what I think is that both were the same, San José y San Francisco Solano. What the documents are saying at the mission was San José, but the church inside the mission was San Francisco Solano. According to what I read here, they don't move. It's the same place.
I included a sample of the translation with a few very first pages of the actual book. The beginning is where they name San Ildefonso, and it never appeared again. And well, it's interesting to see how many inaccuracies we can find in documents. So what we have to do was Jorge did, just look at comparing documents to decide whether the information is reliable or not. Consider that many of these friars also wrote from hearsay. And that hearsay includes a lot of myths and legends and local legends, you know. So sometimes we take the hearsay for the truth. And sometimes when we only have one document, we may take it as the only valid proof that we have, and always take it with a grain of salt. When you have many other documents, you need to contrast the information. However, my role here is like a translator, and I have to do some research as well, and in this case, linguistic. I was trying to reproduce, to a certain extent, uses of English at the time as well. So you get the impression what I wanted you English speakers to read the book as if they were reading an old English book, all manuscript from English, with certain modernizations perhaps, just to make it. It's always a delicate balance to keep it accessible and faithful to the style of the translation. As Jorge was mentioning, this is the introduction of the book. This mission was founded in the year 1703 in the wetlands of the Rio Grande, under the invocation of San Francisco Solano. Notice also in the language of the friar how there is a sort of certainty about the foundation of San Antonio de Valero, and then he talked about a place called San Ildefonso. It indicates very much to me that this is hearsay in many ways. From here, it was moved again to the Rio Grande, where it received the invocation of St. Joseph, and finally it was relocated to the San Antonio River, where it is now under the invocation of San Antonio de Valero. That's where people may get all this information.
Just a short interruption.
Yeah.
This page is written by Diego Martín García, Fray Diego Martín García, in 1744.
Yeah.
And it's the same friar that write the list in the second page.
All right.
So someone is writing in 1744, many years later, something that happens and he didn't see it.
And we know there were a lot of changes in the mission. There were a lot of missions along the border, and then little by little they were disappearing and concentrating in other missions, you know. So we don't know where this San Ildefonso comes from. We don't know if it ever existed, but as Jorge said, it's 44 years later. And it's very much, for this friar, it's really hearsay. And we don't have any other evidence that that was in existence. But it could have been. There were so many along the border of the Nueva España that it could very well have been true, you know. So it continued with baptisms in this mission during the time that was called, they didn't use the word mission, that's why I put it in parentheses, but San Francisco Solano. So baptismos in this mission during the time that was called San Francisco Solano. All of which, along with those celebrated from the beginnings, I, Fray Diego Martín García, current minister of this mission, transfer here from the old books, since they are by now in poor condition, and for having found some entries in some loose papers.
This is how it's going to look, the translation book.
Yes. I always need to read this. I'm constantly rereading the translation out loud, and that's why it's giving me so much work. I want to do a very thorough translation and as consistent as possible. It would have been an easy way probably to make a sort of summary of the information in every entry, but that is already done. It was done in the 70s. But I would not consider that a translation itself. It is a summary of information. Useful nonetheless, but limited in depending on what you're looking for. Okay, so we have here in the year 1703, and this is the most interesting part for me, all the ritual, the linguistic ritual as well, when they record something, right? I baptized Maria de la Cruz for being ill, and I gave her only the holy water. Her godfather was Roque de los Santos, governor, and her parents were Gentile. That's where I make a footnote about the word Gentile. And to attest to the truth of this, I signed it on this day, the year 1703, advising that she's an adult and has not received chrism or holy oil, etc. Fray Francisco Esteves, Apostolic Commissioner and Prefect, which in the manuscript, which is very interesting, en lugar de prefecto, en el manuscrito aparece perfecto.
English.
Prefect of the missions. And then in the margin, as I told you, all the annotation, go to the margin, and that's it. So I look for dating this in a way that is not a modern way of saying date, but is not necessarily unfamiliar either. And this is what we are doing. This is how we are conveying the translation. And we learn a lot about the rites of baptisms here, and if you are familiar with the Catholic Church, you will find that the terminology, many of it is still in use.
We got here, which is a list of the nations, right? We have to I noticed that many of the nations are very similar, and we can look at this as it was an orthographic mistakes or misreading of the friars, right? For example, we have this Bidakimamar or Bidakimamar. And the same with the Harame, Charame, Zarame. All of these, in my opinion, are the same people. Okay, the same nation. We cannot count it. It was different. And what I was saying, for example, is that in San Francisco Solano, we have a lot of Harames here, okay, and some Tripas Blancas. We got this Atero Kodame, which was the other important Parcialidad, the other important town inside the San Francisco Solano. And Antonio de Olivares, he left behind the Terokodame. We don't know the reasons. Maybe in Mexico they have, because this San Juan Bautista, Guerrero, and Coahuila, and it's the same place. Maybe they have documents on this, but it's far from my work on this book. 91 individuals with the Payaya with 2 Ys, and we have 48 with the Payaya with just one Y. So no doubt they are the same.
Jorge, so what you're saying in your list, the names of all the native names, these are names that are from the book? Are they mentioned? Those names are mentioned in the book?
Yeah. Everything is on the book.
Everything. Okay, so it's all the different spellings that you picked up from your transcription, translated.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Over 1664 records, only in 10 or maximum 12 are related to mulattoes or mestizos. This is not the exception that confirm the existence. This is the exception that say there were not a casta system. The mission, we had the difference between Indios and Españoles. The friars, as any other employees, have a boss and have to tell their boss that they were doing a good job converting the Indians. And that's the reason to difference between Indians and Españoles. And the word Españoles that they use in the book doesn't mean that they were from Spain. And Robert Garcia can agree with me, I'm sure, that very few of the soldiers coming from Mexico to found the Villa of Béjar and to establish the Presidio some months later. Very few of them were from Spain. We have, and it's recorded on the book, some records that say, this one is Español, and in the next line, he said, is mulatto, or is Tlaxcalteca. They were living as Spaniards. They were wearing Spanish dress, Spanish military dress, and all of this, you know, and they were reflected as Spaniards, but they were not Spaniards. You know, it was coming to San Antonio. It was like go to and excuse me for the word, it's like going to hell. in that time. There were a lot of Apaches attacking, and I can assure you that a good Spaniard for a good family living in Sevilla or in Spain in that time, the fullest idea was to go to San Antonio. For what? What I'm doing there? So very few, just the governor, Martín de Alarcón, the captain, the other were natives Hispanized from the Rio Grande Valley, from Saltillo, from all of that places. Is where Martín de Alarcón recruited the soldiers for the Presidio. The majority were mestizos, and they were also Tlaxcaltecas and natives Hispanized. So when we are speaking about Spaniards and natives making a big difference, the difference were not real, all right? Many natives were Spaniards in that time.
All right. Well, I know someone had asked a question. I'm not sure if you can answer this, Jorge. Are there archaeological sites in the Rio Grande Valley where these missions have been identified and can be dated?
That is in San Juan Bautista, which is the Guerrero town in the north of Mexico, very close to the Paso de Francia, and there is the remains of a church. But the missions were fields and were houses made by adobe, and when they leave, the adobe just disappeared. It's very difficult to find remains and to find archaeological evidence of that. It's very difficult.
So that these records go from 1703 to what year? It ends where?
1783.
Okay.
So Jorge, so this is a complete, the book is everything on the baptismals. And so, so when is your burials going to production? The book on burials.
The burials, when you say goodbye, let me say you something.
Okay.
All right, this is Julio. The question I had was, okay, so the baptismals were put together by Francisco Diego Martin Garcia, the friar. Were they put together?
No.
Are they actually transcribed by the friars themselves? Like, say, for example, Friar Estevez, the first one, he wrote it himself.
No, we have many different friars. The thing is that the original book in the 1744, something happens. They don't say why, maybe a flood or maybe a fire. The original book damaged. So this friar in 1744 has to transcribe that part of the book. Then in the beginning of the book, we have like 300 records that were transcribed by this friar. Yeah, and after that we have a lot of different writers, and precisely Fray Diego Martín García was the most I think the most cultivated in writing, because it has a beautiful records. And well, you cannot imagine. I was on Thursday again on the archdiocese consulting the original books, and you cannot imagine today with a modern pen, we are not able to write so thin, so small calligraphy. Well, I'm using a big screen right here, okay, to amplify, to zoom it, the record of that friar. But the original book is you need a zoom, a lupa, no? Antonio, how is that? Lupa, right? To zoom in the writing of that friar, because it's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The original book is beautiful.
All right, thanks.
Welcome.
That script that you're talking about, that is so difficult,
Yes.
but not anything.
If
I'm not
I-
translate the book. I'm telling you right now, I'm not translating the book, but it has information on his travels.
You are talking about a book you find. It's in Spanish, in old Spanish, It's an
Yeah.
original book.
Yes, it was a Google free download,
Uh-huh.
copy, expired copyright book. And Google does that all the time. And so when I find them, I grab them. But they do
Okay,
disappear because
If you
people.
want to share, if you want to share with us, I'm be happy. I will be happy.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. Will you give me your email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will send you my email later at the end.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, I have it right here, so I'll be happy to send it to you.
Jorge,
Mention that
Robert.
he's part of the Onate family.
Yes, yes, Baeza.
La entrada de a Nueva México. Hablamos los dos idiomas.
Jorge,
Yes.
are you offering free translation services or what? Because I got some
Well,
documents too.
no, look at Antonio. He's saying not.
This is the book. This is a book I found.
Well, I will read your book and I will give you some tips of in the book. I'm not a translator. I don't have such a skill.
Bernadette,
Yes.
you will never find anyone who could do this for the sake of art. There is no way to pay a translation like this. And you have to do it because you are a little bit nuts or something like that. For academic reasons as well, of course, in academia. And I wish I could devote my time to the translation. Unfortunately, I cannot, and that is a big obstacle. But honestly, this is like translating poetry in so many ways, or literature. There is no way that you can pay this by the word. Absolutely. Every word is a philological research.
Well, if you were to translate it, I'd buy your book. I don't care what you charge. It's
No,
a beautiful book.
I mean, I'm very invested in this project with Jorge because there are many good reasons to be involved. Certainly not financially, not because Jorge doesn't want to pay me or anything like that. No, I came on board because I'm interested in it. But I always tell my students, I teach translation, and I tell my students, you should never do translate literature, any kind of literature, poetry, or this madness. It's mad. And you cannot do it for money. There is no way. Absolutely not. We'll do it for prestige or whatever comes. Who knows?
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, when we look at these books and they've been transcribed, and some of the things you say that they're identified as Indio, or some of them will be identified as mulatto. So they are already being given identification, which is, I guess, within that caste system. Indio, mulatto, another word is coyote. So they have all these different terms. But I guess what you're saying in this book, the baptismal, it's they mainly are just listed as Indian, and then a few other listed. I think you had a few listed as mulatto.
Yeah,
right?
at the end of the period, in the last years of the mission, we have some mulattoes that were living in the mission. Yeah.
Right. And then for some, like for the soldiers, they identified them as Spanish, I guess, to show that they're not the Indians. And so what you're saying is that our soldiers, we came in, I think we came in from Coahuila, San Juan Bautista, and then into Texas. And I think a lot of us know already that we have already been mixed, from the Spaniards and the Indians, that a lot of our soldiers are not just Spanish, they're mixed with the native people.
Yeah, but we are Spaniards as well. We are a mixed race of many cultures. The problem
right.
is the thing is the attitude that we have. The in the north of Europe, they are historically racist, pure racist. But in the Spaniards, we don't have that such a, you know, we mix historically, we mix with many races. So what's the problem? There is no problem of that. They just refer to Spaniards like they were already living as Spaniards. They were already being baptized, you know, and to difference with the Indians, which were Gentiles. That means not Christian, not baptized. And let me tell you just one tip. For example, the same book in Nachitoches is talking about savage. So the Spaniards define Gentiles, which is a good word, and in the same place in France, they refer to them as a savage.
Oh,
So it's
savage, yes.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Yes,
Tengo una pregunta, no te escuché bien porque se estaba cortando la comunicación. ¿Qué quiere decir padres gentiles?
yeah,
Tipo de padres gentiles.
this is very simple. I was talking about that. Padres is the parents of the baptized were not Christians.
Oh, we're not Christians. Oh, okay.
We're not Christians yet, right? These people before the baptism, they were Gentiles.
Again. Okay.
Yep. So
Yeah, but then after the baptism, then they're
They-
Christian.
they
right?
became Christians, right? It's my point. The Gentile is not about word. And today we found gentil like someone very amable, very kind, you know, it's a good word in that time that defines people that were not baptized yet. Just announce you that the Burials book is already printed. It's already published a week ago. So, well, I will make the announcement in Facebook and social media in the next days, but it's already printed. I'm just waiting for the first item to see if everything is okay with the book and all that, but it's already printed. We made an effort to get this ready for you.
And in 10 years from now, you may have the translation.
What?
In 10 years from now, you will have the translation.
No. Well, if you have any question, in any case you have any question, I'm here. You can have me in the first page of the book. You have my email, or I can share with you, or Lisa can put us in contact. If any doubt you have about the book, just call me. I have my database, and I can point you in the right direction for your ancestors.
Great.
Gracias, Jorge. Gracias.
Encantado, Rodolfo. Espero que lo disfrutes y te guste.
Y aquí se habla español también.